sometimes what happens is that those of us that have had issues with procrastination, we start to accept it as an identity. That I am a procrastinator, I procrastinate, okay? And so a lot of what we do in Muslim Mastery in here is about shifting the identity that, hey, this is not who I am. And it's clearly not who I am because of this and because of this. It's like I have a lot of brothers who come to me, or sisters that come to me, and they say, I'm not disciplined. Like, I'm not disciplined, okay? And they have this identity and they have this belief that me as a person, I am not a disciplined person. I am not, I don't have the identity of a disciplined person. And then I say to that person, do you pray 5 times a day? And they're like, yeah, I do. I'm like, you pray on time, like separately, like each prayer? They're like, yeah. I'm like, bruv, like, are you serious? How many people do you think there are in the world that consistently do anything apart from going toilet, right? Or eating? Apart from that, how many people do you think there are that actually do something 5 times a day, every day, consistently for years? Like, very few people. Like, unless it's like watching TV, and they even do that sporadically. So what I'm saying is that these people, they have an immense amount of discipline to be able to do these things, right? But they still see themselves as someone who has no discipline. So in the same way, I want you to start shifting your thinking a little bit. Rather than thinking, you know, I procrastinate, or I'm a procrastinator, or something like that, I want you to think that, you know what, I'm very proactive in my life, but there's certain areas where I'm procrastinating and I'm not being as proactive as I should, right? So one thing is the identity shift. The second thing is realizing that most of procrastination happens when you feel overwhelmed or when there's a lack of clarity, okay? So it's either overwhelm, it's lack of clarity, or it's usually to do with motivation or something like that, okay? And we're going to address each of these things, but I just want you to realize that that is the core crux of it, right? So when it comes to like lack of clarity, why, overwhelm, all this stuff, I'll give you the example of the solution to this. So one thing I really hate doing is my tax returns, okay? What happens in my tax returns is that I have to basically look at all the transactions that my business made, and of those transactions, there's usually thousands. I have to mark every single transaction in terms of what it was spent on and all of that stuff, okay? So when the time comes to do this, like I've got a tax return due, then my mind's like, oh, I don't want to do it, it's too much work, it's this, it's that, right? And I start to procrastinate. Oh, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. And then when do we end up doing it? Well, you end up doing it the day before the taxes are due, whatever it is, right? So to kind of combat this, one of the things we want to do is we want to get very clear on what are the steps of what I need to actually do, right? So for example, I'll be like, okay, so what do I actually need to do? Well, what I need to do is I need to download these, I need to log into bank account, I need to download these spreadsheets, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, okay? So once you're clear on what it is you want to do, then I would be like, okay, why do I want to do this? Why do I have to do this? Okay, then I'm like, look, if I don't do this, it's going to get me a fine, it's going to mess the business up, If I don't do this now, it's going to lead to me stressing for the next few weeks, I might forget, Just get clear on the motivations, the why. So now I'm clear on what to do, I'm clear on why I must do this, but it's still overwhelming, it's still a lot. So what I do then is I say, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down. We're going to break this down. How do you eat an elephant? Bit by bit. Right? So we're going to break this down into a very simple task. And so what I do, and I've done this for the tax thing specifically, is I will say, right, tomorrow I'm going to work on, like when I'm doing my weekly planning, not to put it off, right? Tomorrow I'm going to work on the tax thing. What's step number 1? Step number 1 is logging into the bank account. So tomorrow, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the bank account. That's my only action. So rather than it being this big bulk of hours of work, that's just like, no, I don't want to deal with that. It becomes log into my bank account. It's going to take me like 30, 40 seconds. Okay, great. That's the only action? Yes, that's the only action, right? So then what I did is actually plan that as a thing. I went, I sat down. I was like, okay, let me log into the bank account. And it's very easy because in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to log into the bank account. I logged into the bank account and then I'm like, I'm logged in now. Like, what's next step? Well, next step is I could leave, or the next step is just download the statements for the last 12 months. Okay, that's easy. That'll take me another 3 minutes. Okay, cool. Let me do that. Right? So now I've actually taken action. And then if I repeat this cycle over and over again, I actually get it done. So even if I just leave it at that, where I bring those spreadsheets and I download those spreadsheets and that's it, and I'm like, okay, I'm done for the day. So now I feel a sense of progress. Now I feel like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Why did I put it off for so long, like we do with a lot of stuff? And then I move on to the next stage. So the next day I come and I'm like, right, what's next? Well, next is I'm actually going to combine all of these spreadsheets into one spreadsheet. Okay, cool. That's the only thing I'm going to do today. Okay, nothing else. All right, cool. It's so easy. It's going to take me like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, so I sit down, I do that part, right? And we just keep breaking these things down into very small, digestible things.